It's been 8 long years since the original Nintendo Switch launched way back in 2017. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like the speculation about its successor has been floating around for almost as long. I can't say I'm surprised though. Nintendo's machines often defy expectation, and at any rate, it's fun to imagine the future, right? So when Nintendo invited me to spend 4 hours with the Switch 2 back in May, several weeks before launch, I jumped at the chance. I was immediately impressed with the hardware. The Switch 2 has a larger footprint than the original Switch thanks to its shiny new 7.9-inch 1080p LCD screen. Despite this, it's still only 13.9mm thick. In other words, the same thickness as the old Switch. You might have heard people talking about the build quality too. It may not sound super important, but when you actually put this thing in your hands, you immediately feel the difference. The Switch 2 feels weighty, incredibly solid, and its finely textured surfaces almost feel like they're made of metal rather than plastic. It's really a pleasure to hold and interact with. But of course, the true measure of any console is the games on offer. I'm going to discuss 4 games in this video: Dragon Drive, Donkey Kong Bananza, Metroid Prime 4, and Mario Kart World. Before I do that though, let's go home. It's Switch 2 launch day, and the folks at Nintendo kindly sent me some goodies. My favorite thing about Nintendo hardware is always the controllers. Now, I have fairly small hands, but the larger Joy-Con 2 feel significantly more comfortable thanks to their bigger surface area. The face buttons are satisfyingly clicky, and the shoulder buttons feel much more substantial this time around. I also took the new Pro Controller for a spin. Like the Joy-Con 2, the Pro Controller feels like an upgrade in terms of overall quality. The new shoulder buttons are significantly better. The controller itself features this kind of grippy, slightly rubberized texture. It's super comfortable. What else can I say about the hardware? The new kickstand is far tougher and can easily be set to a much wider array of angles than ever before, which bodes well for playing in tabletop mode. And for the privacy conscious among you, the Switch 2 camera even has a handy little built-in lens cover. There's one final, really small detail that I want to mention that I think only the most die-hard Nintendo enthusiasts will care about. When you look at the Switch 2 up close, its textured surface contains these little reflective flecks through the paintwork. I think it speaks to this sense of the Switch 2 feeling like a high-end piece of electronics. Truly lovely. Okay, now, let's return to the Nintendo Switch preview event. We've got some really cool upcoming games to talk about. Okay, I have to start with a confession. Of all the games showcased at the Switch 2 preview event, I was most intrigued by Dragon Drive. This game is essentially wheelchair basketball, which is an interesting premise for a game, as well as being awesome from a representation standpoint. It's also a really fascinating demonstration of the Joy-Con 2's capabilities. I first played a brief tutorial that introduced the control scheme. Each Joy-Con controls one of the player character's arms. When you place the Joy-Con flat in mouse mode, you roll backwards and forwards to move the wheels independently. rapidly glide forward to accelerate, and glide in the opposite directions to turn. You can also raise the Joy-Con to lift your arms, which is how you catch the ball and shoot goals. While it does take a little getting used to, you'll quickly find yourself rolling around like a pro. After the tutorial, I played a regular versus match involving 2 teams of 3. I think there was a time limit, and whichever team scored the most goals within that time limit won the match. Multiplayer is, as you might expect, pretty chaotic, mostly thanks to the deliberately imprecise controls. I would say that Drag and Drive kind of feels like a souped up Mario Party game. From what I played, the mechanics aren't particularly deep, and opportunities for strategic play are pretty limited. The fun here though is really in the hectic nature of the experience, where players are yelling and laughing because they overshoot their mark, they run into teammates by accident, or they pull off unlikely goals. This might sound like a criticism, but it really isn't. Drag and Drive very much delivers on that chaotic party game vibe. It's one of those games that seems to exist to demonstrate what the Joy-Con 2 controllers can do, and I think you'll get the most out of it if you play with friends in the same room, or using the built-in game chat functionality.
Nice work, nice work.
Can you believe it's been more than a decade since the last Donkey Kong game? Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze for the Wii U was a masterpiece in my humble opinion. It's exciting to see Nintendo's original mascot return with all the AAA glitz and glamour he so deserves. One of the things I love most about Nintendo is they aren't afraid to explore bold new territory with their most treasured characters. They do this all the time. Familiar, beloved characters represent friendly, trusted faces, beckoning players to explore the unknown. Mario took us to gravity-defying spherical worlds in space. Zelda dropped us into an open-world chemistry and physics experiment, while humble Luigi beckoned us to probe a ghostly labyrinth with only a flashlight and trusty vacuum cleaner in tow. These characters reassuringly hold our hands as we take the plunge into frontiers of the imagination. Now I'm waxing poetic here because Donkey Kong Bananza is one of these experiences. I played an earlier demo of this game before Pauline was revealed just recently, and although that reveal made me even more excited for the full game, I have plenty to say about the demo itself. The moment you arrive on Ingot Isle, you're encouraged to act a complete fool. You'll immediately realize that this new iteration of everyone's favorite ape can smash up the surrounding environment using only his bare fists. When I say that almost everything in Donkey Kong Bananza is completely destructible, I'm actually at risk of understating the degree of freedom on offer here. But you might be wondering, as I was, all this wanton destruction comes at the expense of an underlying gameplay structure. I could see the novelty of smashing and grabbing wearing off after a couple of play sessions, leaving me with the question, and then what? Well, I've got good news for you. All of this mayhem occurs within a broader, cohesive level design that incorporates many other platforming concepts, including some really wonderful Donkey Kong staples like barrel cannons, minecarts, and underwater exploration. Another question in my mind before I played the demo was whether or not the player would get lost. But Donkey Kong Bananza has a few tricks up its sleeve to keep you orientated. The most important of these is the camera perspective. While you're digging around underground, it's possible to move the camera through the surrounding terrain. This enables you to see Donkey Kong from any point of view. But don't let me leave you with the impression that all the shenanigans are going on exclusively underground. Donkey Kong Bananza is impressive in part due to the scope and scale of its environments. When you're on the surface of the world, the experience feels much like any great Nintendo 3D platformer, thanks to the tight controls and the multitude of platforming and combat challenges. But where Donkey Kong Bananza departs from a game like Super Mario Odyssey is that Donkey Kong can climb, just like Link in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Better yet, there's no stamina meter keeping you in check. You're free to climb and dig to your heart's content. And as a result, you'll want to ensure you're reaching for the sky just as often as you plumb the depths. The game's primary collectible MacGuffin, golden bananas, are hidden all over the place after all. And Donkey Kong's massive hands aren't simply useful for smashing stuff. Sometimes you can grab an enemy projectile and throw it right back at them. You can even use pieces of earth as a surfboard if you're so inclined. Again, the demo I played didn't feature much of the gameplay that was revealed in the more recent trailer. It was just a small taste of the full experience. But it's fair to say that I came away from Donkey Kong Bananza with a keen potassium craving. I'm eager to play more, and that's definitely a very good thing. Well, here we are in 2025, and a shiny new Nintendo console awaits, as does a shiny new Metroid game, crafted by the beloved developers who established the Metroid Prime series in the first place. The Metroid Prime 4 demo doesn't muck around. After an initial briefing, where you're tasked with repelling an in-progress attack on a Federation research facility on planet Tanamar, the action kicks off. It's very clear right off the bat that Retro Studios are going for something completely different with Metroid Prime 4. You arrive on Tanamar in the midst of a rolling and desperate battle between the IGF and the space pirates. Buildings are engulfed in flame, ladders of anti-aircraft fire sway back and forth across the horizon, and exhausted IGF troopers frantically chatter over the radio, expressing relief that Samus has finally arrived. This first impression really bears no relationship whatsoever to the muted isolation of past Metroid games. The demo presented something that felt much like a traditional first-person shooter with Metroid trappings. It's an explosive, action-packed experience, but is it Metroid? Well, there are certainly many familiar Metroid elements here. You're equipped with your trusty arm cannon, which can fire regular shots as well as charged shots. You'll need to scan certain doors to open them, and navigating your way through the collapsing research facility sometimes requires shifty morph ball through air vent shenanigans. There's no question that the demo as presented didn't showcase any of the core elements that really form Metroid's DNA, like puzzle solving, environmental exploration, or upgrades granting access to previously inaccessible areas. Now, I assume the final game will include those elements, but I'm not in a position to judge what I haven't seen. It very much felt like a slick, action-packed first-person shooter with a Metroid skin, and I don't mean that as criticism either. I thoroughly enjoyed what I played. It's certainly true that Metroid Prime 4 is a glorious demonstration of the Switch 2's capabilities, in that it looks and sounds every bit like the high-end spectacle you'd expect from a next-generation Retro Studios game. The other major focus for this demo was the control scheme, which is absolutely a critical aspect of the experience here. Now, you can play the game with regular twin stick controls, or you can turn the Joy-Con on its side to use as a mouse. What's super impressive here is that the Switch 2 instantaneously oscillates in and out of mouse mode depending on how you hold the controllers. I found it to be just as precise and accurate as I'd expect if I was using PC controls. I'm excited about Metroid Prime 4, but I'm equally excited to see what both Nintendo and third-party developers will do with this capability in the future. It looks, sounds, and feels great. But I do wonder if the entire game will place such emphasis on action at the expense of a more traditional Metroid experience. I'm truly hopeful we'll see both the fast-paced action and the haunting solo exploration and puzzle solving in the final release. If so, I suspect this will be a must-own game for the Switch 2. There's a lot to be excited about when it comes to the Switch 2. For me, the magic of Nintendo has often been about how it brings people together. Well, very few video games reliably summon a crowd around the TV like Mario Kart. Now, you can read my full Mario Kart World review on SUPERJUMP via a link in the description, but let me summarize my thoughts here. Mario Kart World walks a near impossible tightrope. It preserves everything that made Mario Kart 8 Deluxe great, while boldly pushing the series forward. It's clear this game couldn't have existed on the original Switch. I'm really glad Nintendo waited for Switch 2. Ironically, the open world, which is really its most recognizable feature, isn't actually what impressed me. The seamless course transitions and the new Knockout Tour mode, for me, are the real standouts. Racing through dynamic environments with shifting time and weather feels fresh and exhilarating. I can't imagine a Mario Kart game without Knockout Tour now. That's really the highest praise I can give. Is Mario Kart World the best in the series so far? Look, it's a tough call, but I would say so. I think it's a great showcase for the Switch 2, and I can't wait to see how Nintendo expands it in the years ahead. Just a few weekends ago on a chilly Melbourne evening, some close friends came over to cook a delicious Nepalese feast for all of us. I thought a few rounds of Mario Kart World might work up our appetites, and so we all congregated in the lounge room for a couple of races. I think it's fair to say that friendships were tested that night in the best possible way.
Hey, let's go time, Baba.
New console launches are pretty exciting, and we're right at the beginning of a new era with Switch 2. As much as I love the hardware and Mario Kart World, I'm even more excited about what's yet to come. I'm sure Nintendo has plenty more surprises in store. Thank you for watching.